am happy to introduce the first panelist for our discussion, Harnessing Technology for Inclusive Economic Growth. Osama Manzar is the founder and director of Digital Empowerment Foundation, an organization he founded in 2002 with the mission of eradicating information poverty from India and the Global South using digital tools. He is a senior Ashoka Fellow, a Chevening Scholar, an International Visitors Leadership Program Fellow of the US State Department, and has served on several boards such as the Association for Affordable Internet, Association of Progressive Communications, World Summit Awards, and Down to Earth. He specializes in creating digital models for poverty alleviation and has traveled to more than 10,000 villages. Welcome, Mr. Osama Manzar. We are honored to have you with us today. May I request you to come to the dais. Our second panelist, Meena Ganesh, is the co-founder and chairperson of Portea Medical, India's leading home healthcare company. Founded in 2013, the company has 4,000 plus employees and operations across 40 plus cities in India and brings in-home to patients the full range of geriatric, chronic and post-operative care as well as allied healthcare services. As a partner of growthstory.in, one of India's largest entrepreneurship platforms, she is also a co-promoter of nearly a dozen new-age internet technology-enabled startups, namely Big Basket, Bluestone, HomeLane, and Worlook.io. Meena holds a degree in physics from Madras University and a PGDM from IIM Calcutta. She serves on the board of Pfizer India, P&G Health and Hygiene Limited, and Axis Bank. The list of recognitions and accolades is long and varied, the most recent being the one from Forbes Asia 50 over 50 for shattering age and gender norms. Thank you, Ms. Meena Ganesh. We are indeed privileged to have you in our midst today.
Joining them on the panel is Mr. Amit Jain, an alumnus of IIT Delhi and the CEO and co-founder of Girnar Group, India's leading auto tech company. The Girnar Group today has a team of 5,500 plus professionals in India and in 2 Southeast Asian countries with a portfolio that includes businesses, portals such as cardeco.com, bikedeco.com, pricedeco.com and collegedeco.com. Girnar Auto Solutions are used in over 30 countries and Cardeco in particularly has become integral to the Indian auto ecosystem. Amit's zeal towards fostering entrepreneurship and creating products that deliver a superior consumer experience that has led him to be an angel investor to various internet startups. And as we all know, Amit Jain is one of the judges, or should we say shark, in Shark Tank India Season 2. Welcome to our event, Mr. Amit Jain. We are grateful that you could find the time amidst your schedule to be with us today. The moderator for the discussion is Mr. Rakesh Singh, the Group Head of HDFC Bank for Investment Banking, Private Banking, Marketing and Products. He joined the bank in 2011 and has been instrumental in setting up the investment banking and project finance businesses for HDFC Bank. Rakesh has over 28 years of experience in managing client relationships, debt and equity capital markets, structured finance, leverage finance, debt restructuring, and managing proprietary investments. Under his leadership, the private banking business now manages assets close to 400,000 crores across over 35,000 families in India and overseas. He serves as a trustee on the board of Sneha in Mumbai and is a long-time supporter of United Way of Chennai. We are very grateful to him, both for his unstinted support over the years and his ready acceptance for our invitation to moderate this evening's panel discussion. Mr. Rakesh Singh, I welcome you onto the stage and request you to take over the session.
Good evening, everyone. After a fairly interesting talk by both Sanjeev and Rhythm, stage is set for a very interesting discussion from Osama, who I recently discovered just about an hour back that we grew up in the same colony 30 years back. And we incidentally discovered because he spoke Hindi in a dialect which I thought was from the same region. So what a coincidence, Osama. We grew up in a colony called HEC colony in Ranchi. And we didn't know that till an hour back. So welcome Osama, welcome Meena, welcome. Amit has been a friend for about 8 years. I've known him very closely. I admire him for what he's done. Met Meena a long time back for what she's done in Portea. But I'll start with Amit, you first. I promised to give him a tough session because he's a shark. So I told him that we'll teach sharks differently on this panel. So we see startups actually at the core of disruption, actually, as the core of disruption, and you continue to see a lot of startups at the core of disruption in India. What do you see disruptive in the next 5-10-year time frame, which is still to get disrupted? A lot of the forefront of client experience has got disrupted. What will get disrupted to make the total client experience a completely different proposition?
I think I'll divide it into three parts. Initially, when motor got invented, electricity came, it was a revolution of replacing humans with machines. And motor could, do work that humans could do more efficiently. Then it came the computer era where computers started to come, bahi khate bante the haath se. That got changed now, accounts were in Tally and the computer revolution started. Now I think it's the AI revolution age. In fact, I was pleased to hear this time the speech given by Finance Minister Nirmala Raman. She mentioned AI like multiple times, and I was so glad when I heard that. So I think one clear forefront of disruption would be usage of AI on various industries, and there are so many of use cases that can be implemented to have better decision making, better communication. Chat GPT has come. So much tech revolution is happening. I think that's one part of revolution that's going to happen. Second, in a country like India, which is very different than Western world, where real Bharat is very different than more civilized part of the world. I think a lot of disruption is also happening there. Now there are agri-tech startups. There are startups actually hitting grassroots now. Startups that are actually checking septic tank, cleaning septic tanks, which are not known problems in Western world. So I think there are a lot of Bharat startups that are actually emerging. Third, I think is the payment stuff is basically going to be really disruptive when it comes to Indian ecosystem, because India actually took a leap ahead of everybody else in digitization of payments and identity both. I think combined with these two, so many more use cases emerge in lending, in investments. So I think the fintech wave is going to stay. Lastly, I think EV is something that's going to be crazy. EV is going to be like crazy because India is going to lead that forefront because we have a lot of bikes and bikes are getting into EV mode. I expect in next 3 years, 30 to 40% of bike sales would be EV sales. So when I went to Auto Expo this time, Rakesh, I saw only EVs. True. And I was surprised to see, how you have a glimpse to future, right, out there. And I think that's going to be another disruption in my view.
Meena, coming to you, Portea Medical has been at the forefront of actually consumer healthcare, especially amongst seniors a lot that I have personally experienced. As Indians are outliving now beyond the numerical number of 73, 74 more into 70s and 80s, how are you seeing the overall emergence of healthcare, the use of technology as well, the use of services, especially human services, especially at the old age, where people need a lot more support as people get older? How do you see this whole healthcare thing emerging? And within that whole concept of, let's say, elder care, I would also like to understand what has been the role of Ayushman Bharat. Government has played a very pivotal role in bringing a scheme which has brought healthcare closer to, which has been a bridge between private healthcare and public, rather I would say private healthcare providers and the public. How you see these two things, being a better bridge as things go along? Because as a good exercise has started, how do you see these things progressing from here?
Sure. So let me take the first part. What I see has been the role of technology, or what I see the role of technology in how it's disrupting healthcare in the years to come. And if I may classify it into a few sections. First is access. The second is quality of care. Third is cost of care. And fourth is, of course, just technology and how it's completely transforming healthcare using, for instance, AI, etc. So in each of these, there are very, very specific changes that we are seeing, not just in India, globally. If you look at access, we know that that's the biggest problem in India, to have access to, for everybody around the country, to good quality healthcare, or just healthcare. Right? So physical healthcare infrastructure has to grow, and that will take its own time. But digital has actually stepped forward into the breach and actually helped in making some of these gaps narrower. For instance, especially in COVID, of course, as we all know, teleconsultations absolutely had to be brought in. The teleconsultation law was brought in a quick turnaround, which is amazing at the speed with which this country reacted. Then they brought in a home-based monitoring of COVID patients. All of that had to be brought in quickly. But the good thing is that some of those change, and then of course e-pharmacy, and that was another thing which was pending for a long time. Quick changes in those regulations, a lot of demand, that has changed forever. I wouldn't say that now suddenly people have stopped going to hospitals and clinics and will use only teleconsultation, no. But this has become a hybrid model. People are willing to use a combination of the two, and the bigger beneficiaries of this are probably those who are in remote places, who don't get access to good quality practitioners in their neighborhood, or elderly who cannot move out of their homes to access healthcare. For them, this has become a big boon. And the second part of access is self-care. A lot more of availability of different kinds of devices, whether wearables or point of care or self-testing devices, is starting to provide patients, and you need not be a patient. I mean, I'm not a patient, but I need to check my BP at regular intervals. Fine. So all of us need to keep track of, especially with chronic diseases growing very, very rapidly in this country. I mean, we are the diabetes capital, hypertension capital, COPD capital, cancer capital of the world, all of these things. So it helps to have devices at our fingertips, so the access is improving again because of technology. And there, it's a combination of devices, teleconsultation, perhaps AI-based models, which can help nudge people to do the right behavior so that they can keep their chronic diseases at bay. So that's, and improve wellness, improve quality of health, and so on. So that's another very big thing. The second thing, if you look at in terms of quality of care, especially when you're looking at critical care, when you're looking at higher acuity care, and whether it's at home, like you had mentioned, we do a lot of care at home, but also in the hospitals, the lack of really good quality healthcare practitioners is a known thing in India. Whether it is nurses or doctors or very, very senior consultants, all of them are spread thin. When you combine them, their capabilities and their skills with really good quality point of care, medical grade, I'm not talking about wearables that all of us wear and measure our BP and so on and so forth, but I'm talking high level medical grade devices which are sitting on the bedsides to measure sleep, to measure various vital parameters for people in ICU. It also, other devices such as ICU, virtual rounds, all of these are coming in to make sure quality of care can be improved with the help of technology, amongst many other things. It also relieves the doctors of doing certain very tedious tasks like taking notes, you speak out. So there are a lot of work in improving their efficiency and improving their monitoring of the patients. Third, in the area of cost of care, now this is something where you said, for instance, Ayushman Bharat, the government has come in with the scheme to bridge the gap between private insurance and the whole host of people who don't have, who are the underserved or uncovered population. But I think that's still a very small of a drop in the ocean. Reason, one, the entire Ayushman Bharat program, I don't think is fully funded. So if people really do use it as it is meant to be, where is it going to be funded from? I don't have the answers. Perhaps some of the experts who are sitting in the room may be able to give me the answer to the second. There's a big problem with all the insurance in this country. It is only if you go into a hospital, if you're really sick, that you get insurance cover. What about day to day? What about preventing What about doing chronic disease management at home so that you don't become hospitalized? No, so there is still a big gap that's sitting there. The fourth, and I know I'm taking too much of time, but the fourth very exciting thing is how you can get precision and personalized medicine because of technology. Now, especially in the area of cancer care, a lot of very exciting genomic studies are being done, which ensures that the actual immunotherapy drug that is delivered is exactly as per your genetic makeup, as per my genetic makeup, based on whatever has been done of that. So those are things which are now possible because of AI. Of course, diagnostics is a big area where AI has improved the quality of radiology, quality of point of care diagnostic devices. So I think that whole space is just exploding, and it'll be very exciting to watch what's going to come. So I hope that answered.
Thank you. Osama, a lot has been talked about India and Bharat. You represent Bharat both in the form in which you have arrived, and I'm sure there is something. So we'd like to understand, especially from you, the role which the government's focus on infrastructure and digital, which is telecom penetration, has been very important in bringing Bharat closer to India.
I would like to, this is my observation in the last few years, is that especially after COVID, actually after COVID only we realized that digital was important. We founded our organization 20 years back. We realized that it was very important, but now it is proven and most of the people are going. So what is the biggest trend that we are going to see is that gradually, and again when Mr. Desai was talking, larger trend is going to be ruralization of India rather than urbanization of India. That is going to be the big trend because of the connectivity, digitalization, digital infrastructure. People are going to spread, people are going to go back, or people are not going to come. And also India being a resource country or a source country or a service provider country. So once you can be providing sources from anywhere, I mean, people will spread, and that is going to be the big trend that is happening. However, the second thing is that digital is moving very fast, but the infrastructure is not reaching as fast to the people who are users. So we are making very good policies, we are making great stride. We are also one of the fastest digitalization country or access country. We are the second top country in the world, but we are also the first top country in the world being unconnected. You know, if you go by the statistics. And I'll give you some of the statistics. India's rural population is 900 million, but our tele-density of rural is 57%. And you can easily delete all those numbers, which is not meaningfully connected. They are connected but buffering. There are 40,000 villages in India who have no connectivity at all. There is no connectivity, like the way there was no road in many villages, there is no connectivity. So I'm just giving a picture that, and this is not a gloomy picture. The policies that we are making, the stride that we are making is not as fast as it should have reached to the people. For example, we are saying that, Mr. Sanyal was talking about Narega being digitalization and attendance doing great, but how many people can mark those attendance on the ground? Forget about corruption, you know. So that way there is a lag, but that lag is not going to be very long because of the policies, because of the adoption. Give you another number. There are 350 million dumb phone users in India. I mean the feature phone users in India. That's a significant number. That population is as much as America. There are 580 million smartphone users in India, but not all of them are in rural because of the tele-density is very low in rural, you know. In metros, 130 to 150 to 200% tele-density is there. Like Chennai and Delhi. Calcutta has got 400% tele-density. So, that way I would say that, but having
said... Is affordability an issue? Is affordability an issue? Because when you travel, you get 4G connections anywhere these days, actually.
No, so it says 4G, but it doesn't function like 4G. Also, the content which is now built for 4G is not getting downloaded unless it is 4G and all that. The content is also transformed. 5 years back, we were not dependent on YouTube. Now, our search engine is not Google. Our search engine in rural India is YouTube because of the oralization of the culture. So it's very important that when we think rural, when we think teledensity, when we think digitalization, we have to think multimedia for 900 million people because they are not text literate. They are oral literate, they are multimedia literate, they are visual literate, and thankfully technology is working visually. So certainly I would say we are in tech ed, not only we are in tech ed, we are in next 30 years we are going to be tech ed in India. But the point is we have to fasten to convert technology being a policy and technology being an investment and infrastructure to technology being a culture. That's very important, At the moment, it is going there, but it is not reached there, and I am talking about the number. It looks like that, like if 2-3 people in turban are walking around, people will say, what's happening? Everybody is having a turban. No, only 3 people are having turban or 4 people are having turban. That's not trend. That's not number. It looks like that everybody has got smartphone, but when you go to number, it does not. And the second is meaningfully converting those connectivity to do transactions. In India, we say that we are the 40% of the transaction of the whole world. That is true. But only all the transaction on UPI is done in urban India. It's not done in rural India. क्या करें हमारी तादादी इतनी ज़्यादा है. We are so many. We create high numbers. We are so many that we are the highest connected, and we are so many that we are the highest unconnected. What to do?
So switching gears, I know Amit has a flight to catch. So Amit, as digital becomes the norm, technology permeates our lives. I think a lot of people here would be thinking, what would the future of work look like? People are very, thinking about unemployment as such. You are the forefront at startup culture, and you see a lot of young employees who work at their own hours, who work at their own style. In not traditional offices, sometimes people are working, sitting on the floor as well in your offices, I've seen. So, and people are working in coffee, at the near the chai in the canteens and all that. Well, what do you see? My question to you is very specific. What is the future of work as you see as it evolves? Because these are the people who are going to work for the next 20, 30 years. And how do you see this future of work getting evolved? And how are you as a corporation going to adjust to those new work practices? I was having a chat with Mr. Mahalingam a little while ago, how the future of work look like. And Mr. Alagappan believes that, people must head to offices to, experience human interactions at work. How will this whole thing, transform?
Look, I think there are 2 answers to it. One is my answer, what I want, and what will happen are different. What I want, I think the companies are built by people, and there's a lot of emotion and culture behind an organization that basically makes any organization thrive. So there'll be so my personal view is that, having people come to office, having a common mission, common purpose, common vision alignment is very critical to create any successful organization. Then there is a second part, obviously we have seen during COVID, how the world transformed, work from home. A lot of organizations actually started operating at work from home mode. Now, if you notice, most of the organizations are coming back and asking people to, kind of report, if not all days, at least partially few days, 3 days a week, 2 days a week, right? And I think that's very important because if you don't have a human touch and if you're living in a silo, like my meetings normally start with asking, how are things at your family, what do you do? And when you do on Zoom and you're like 10 of you already in the meeting, it does not start like that. It starts with, regular work, this is a PPT, you start the work. And I don't think that builds real, connect with the people also. And a lot of people have joined with us in COVID time only. And they have not even met once, right, literally. And I don't think they get what organization is up to. And they're culturally or DNA-wise not aligned or emotionally kind of connected. So I personally think organizations will go this path to extreme, work from home, and now they're coming back. Partially, it will be a hybrid solution. But I can assure you that no organization can be built without emotional connect and human interactions.
Yes, so I must ask one more question here to you. Yesterday I was watching a Simon Sinek video which talked about hard skills and soft skills, and he said there's nothing called soft skills, but it's called human skills. Yeah, human skills. So where do you see this new generation with human skills?
I think the biggest skill that basically I think, so I'm not criticizing the education system here, but I think out of college, most of the people in tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 colleges are unemployed, right? And if you go to real Bharat, 90% of India is not even past 12th class. So I think there is a lot of room to travel. So coming to your question specifically, I think we have to first invest in education. And now with digital medium, what Osama was saying, I am completely aligned. You need to give connectivity. They can learn. They know how to access a tab. And if that happens, you'll see a new face of India where people are educated. I don't think it's a fair playing ground right now. Only 10% of society has access to education, to meaningful education. And that 10% also, I think, I would say, of that 50-60% are studying something they can't apply at work. So real skill development is not really happening. And I think as a human skill development, I would focus on what to do to improve human skills. Like we run a project called Cracked Academy, and we only pick up from smaller towns, tier 3, 4, 5 towns, students, and we upskill them and make them job ready for the first job. And then they either go into our company or externally. Like this last 6 months, we would have trained around, say, 800 people. And exactly from this code. And what we realized is they were educated. They were just lacking that confidence of producing because they were never given exposure or a chance. I think there's a large part of India that lies there. And like Osama said, India is a huge country. You'll have many creating, per capita is growing up, but there is a large part left behind that needs to be covered in my view.
So Meena, as we see evolution of healthcare, there's a big role of technology to play in healthcare. I came across beds which could monitor your sleep patterns these days. I've come across wearables which are basically reasonably, I won't say accurate, but giving you data which we believe is nearly accurate to monitor. How do you see the evolution of technology on wearables, and also wearables which possibly will lead you to have more informed data with yourself when you go for a, let's say, a medical consultation. So it's no longer that you don't have data which you can produce. That's question one. And I understand that DigiLocker is going to become now a source of health records, as the government is aspiring to do. And with masses as such, if DigiLocker becomes a source of all health records, how do you see the evolution of, medical consultation? Because with that record, we can go and move across cities, across doctors, with the same set of records to get medical advice. What do you see this? How do you see this evolving?
Yeah, let me answer the second question first, because that speaks to the Ayushman digital health mission, which the government has been really going after over the last about a year and a half. And at the heart of that is that there is a common place where all the different parts of the ecosystem come together. There is a patient who has an ID and has control over their health records. So health records are owned by them, but they are present in this central repository, and they can decide when they can share and to whom they share. So that is one big ecosystem player. The second is all the providers, all the healthcare providers, clinics, hospitals, home care providers, what have you. Third is the healthcare professionals, so the individual doctors, etc. They have a way to be associated with that. And the fourth are the payers. So when all these four key parts of the ecosystem have one common piece of data that they can share across all of them smoothly, without any loss of fidelity as it goes from place A to place B, with the patient having control over this, that is the ideal eureka. So maybe Rhythm and all are talking about the next big digital change that may come out of India. That's a very new, very interesting stack. If India can do it, that would be extraordinary. No country has been able to create this kind of smooth pathway in which all the health data can come together to enable really good quality. Now what it does is not just enables good quality, but also better cost, because one, the payers have really good access to data. Two, it's for the patient to decide who they go with, and they have more visibility, maybe a bigger marketplace of providers and healthcare professionals that they can take healthcare from. So this should actually help in better quality and cost. Now, you were asking, the second question you asked about wearables. There are wearables and there are wearables. Some are just really, I would say that most of us what we wear are really to keep us happy. It says, oh, my heart rate variation was so and so in the night, and I walked so many steps. All of that is good. That's very important because it focuses you in improving your wellness. Okay, so you track your input parameters, you walk enough, you're doing enough exercise, you're standing every hour. All of these are great things, very essential to keep fit and to keep healthy. But for real medical grade data, there are some which are starting to emerge. For instance, the smartphone and the camera of the smartphone has started to become an excellent diagnostic tool. A lot of ophthalmologic and dermatologic diagnosis get done through that. So that's an area which is emerging. The area that, apart from chronic disease management, I am very excited it will help the elderly, because especially elderly who are staying alone at home, there are devices which can monitor them, can see if their vitals are okay, can tell you whether they are at risk to falling, because that's one of the biggest dangers. Elderly falls, probably they won't recover. So can you prevent that? So there are things that can be brought in, and interestingly, there are devices which can also help in acting as a companion to the elderly who's all alone at home. So those are new emerging areas. The question always is who pays for all of it. Very exciting stuff. Is the customer willing to pay? Is insurance going to pay? Is the government going to pay? Who's going to pay for all these fancy things?
That was my next question to you. So.
Yeah. I don't know the answer for that. I think it will emerge in time to come.
So, Osama, Amit spoke about the penetration of digital, but also you also spoke about the lack of digital being as a service, and education being a big gap, and skilling being a big gap. You are a proponent of trying to doing something in this area per se. How do you see this emerging? What do you think India should do here? Because at the core, before our GDP, the per capita moves from 2,200 to 5,000, something has to happen to this mass of people as well to give some work in this productive hands to make some money for that base to rise.
So we need to think out of the box, and education is not only from the perspective of the future of the country. We have 320 million students going to schools of India, in rural India. Forgive me for always concentrating on rural. But post-COVID, now even government has said that, go online and do the exam online and teaching online and so on and so forth. So certainly digital is going to be one of the largest and the most important access infrastructure for education, right? We have 1.4 million schools. More than 80 to 90% do not have computer centers and do not have connectivity. So I don't think we need to think out of the box for the content of the education, because that is freely available and openly available, and there is a lot of creativity going on. We have 2,000 centers all over the country. We are gradually converting them as a STEM center or as a maker space, because that is how people are now learning. They are learning by doing, they are learning by, experimenting and innovating and so on and so forth. So most important thing that we need to look at is that technology as an access, can you enable and then leave it to the teachers and the students and the rest of the people? Do not concentrate, because content making is a business. So that's the reason why it is always dominated by Baijus of the world and this and the world, and they think that pushing, and also it is like frameworking that this is the content that will pass, this is the content that will, my children has never gone to school, so I can always say that kahin se bhi padh sakte ho. Lekin, I'm just saying that liberalizing education because of the technology access is the call of the time, and it is very important, and NEP allows that, National Education Policy allows that. So I am going, and in any case, now you see tuitions are happening online. Children are going for education online. There are many places where schools are not good, teachers are not good. People are opting for online education. Certification have already started happening online. Things are going there. The point is that if you are a government and a big corporate and a big education investor, you need to see that what to do, what not to do. What I believe is that only to work on the access infrastructure and enabling them, and not to work too much on content, because people will make the content with the context, with the localized content. And now Instagram is a big job employment process, and Facebook is many, Airbnb is many. 4 years back, we did 15,000 women training to become hosts in the villages. I mean, those are the new businesses that is going to come up. So economy is certainly going to be liberalized, but the education has to enable to those kind of economy which is enabled by the tech. That's very important.
Amit, I've seen, this is more a question of how, especially you've seen technology industry and especially the startups. I've seen your startup over the last 8 years gravitate and learn very rapidly, at very rapid, and kept evolving. There are a lot of youngsters in the auditorium. Would you like to share what your learnings were over the 8 years? Because you kept experimenting, and I think learning never stopped. You never, the whole perseverance to find the right solution always was there in you. So what makes this man a shark? That is what people want to know.
I think it's been 15 years I've been doing the startup journey, and first 7 years I bootstrapped, so we did not raise any capital. And I think when you bootstrap for 7 years, you actually learn a lot, and you basically end up learn the skill of basic survival. Since you're funding your own startup from your own profits, you learn how to make profits. Innovation is the game. So we learned how to basically, so you have to find a spark, right? And my spark was I could code. I was a programmer because I went to IIT Delhi and I became a programmer, and I've coded for 15 years. And I also knew how to get traffic on the site through search engine optimization and digital mechanism. So I knew how to use Facebook better than anybody else. I think if you learn, if you have a spark, utilize it well. And everybody has a spark. Somebody has a spark to create a great Instagram page and have 1 million followers. Somebody has a spark to do distribution very well in offline mode. So every founder has a spark. I found mine, and everybody should find their spark and excel on that, because if you base your startup on your own passion, that's something that I did all the time, and I've always leveraged my own skills. Second is, I think failures are more than welcome, because I've failed more times than I've succeeded. While we hear about Kardeko being successful, I think there are 10 more that I failed which never made it to the media because they were failures. And most of the startups happen like that. But reality is that every single failure that I ever had made a better version of my own self. Every single time I realized I've become a better person. And I got learning what not to do. So when I say our organization, Kardeko Group, we encourage failure. We encourage entrepreneurship, because I think what you learn while failing as an entrepreneur is just gold. Because 99 ways how to fail, and the other guy who just gets success quickly doesn't know what will hit soon. So I think we have taken time to get to the stage we are, but it's a very solid, strong foundation of not only business but people we value and the culture we have created, which is more around a family-based system in our own organization. I think that gets formed if you don't speed up the whole build-up, basically. Third, I think agility has been the key part that I've learned. There's no perfect product. And if you go to market even with a half-baked cake, you'll get the feedback and you'll build it better. Versus you take the product 6 months or a year out, you will never know what the customer wanted. So
GPT.
Yeah, so just go out and let people tell you what they need, right? So I've had until date, before I sleep, I read every single consumer feedback that comes to platform, because we are a tech company. We can take a shape very quickly of what consumers want. And that gives me the pulse of what's really happening in the market, how it's evolving. I think these were the basic key learnings that I had. Perseverance being a big part of the thing. Never give up. Dream big was another part, because when I started this company in 7 from a garage, literally we had rented tables, or shadi wali table, the marriage table with white kapda, the white cloth. We put that and rented chairs, and we started in a garage. And we aimed to build a $1 billion company back then in 7. We did not know what it meant to build a $1 billion company, but we kept on persisting, finding new ways to find a way to get there. And I think that has been a consistent part. Have some impossible goal all the time that will make you chase a mission which is unrealistic enough, so that you dream big and you do things that are mad and out of the box.
Thank you. Coming to you, Meena, I think DigiLocker, and I'm just this is just a imagination which I'm imagining. So as DigiLocker becomes a warehouse of all your digital health records, the current insurance premiums which we pay for health is based on a certain amount of health. There's no health check. There's a one-time health check, then you continue with that. So with data being stored on DigiLocker and access being given to insurance company, one, will it do you see the health insurance premium getting more personalized and, variable depending on what your health parameters are? Number two, when you go for hospitalization today, there's a repeat tests that keep on happening by various people. With recency of tests and maybe some government mandates, do you see an environment where the healthcare cost will also come down because the tests have already been done and may not need to be repeated as such? And these records will supposed to be taken on, government may insist that the records be taken as records for doing a treatment and no fresh tests are conducted. How do you see the whole role of future DigiLocker in health insurance and basis that healthcare costs?
Yeah. So that's I guess the utopian mantra that the data would be so good and so clean and so recent and acceptable that all the repetitions and all the, I don't believe that test, if it is done anywhere else other than my hospital syndrome, I'm sure all of us would have gone through that sometime or the other. So all of those can, in theory, be put aside. But I also worry about the importance of privacy of the data, because you don't want to be dinged by an insurance company because of data which doesn't have to be shared with them going into their hands. So this is going to be a very, very important, and the decision has to remain in the hands of the beneficiary and the patient as to what is the extent they want to share or not, at what point of time or not. So long as that is there, and there is of course the freedom of the smoothness of flow, etc. is there, then potentially there is an improvement in this that is possible. The other big, for the other part which may be interesting, I think, is that this data which is available is not just, once it is, the identifiers are removed, it's just a population data, it can actually help insurance companies know really what is the kind of diseases that are growing, that are going to come up, what kind of, their whole actual valuation that they do of various problems that they have today can actually improve. The third thing is, which actually is the real benefit that any insurance company should have, is to prevent hospitalization. If they are able to prevent that, then the claims will actually go down drastically, and today that's the problem. In most healthcare, health insurance, at least health insurance companies all lose money because the claims ratios are too big, because everybody believes that the only way they can get their insurance is they go into a hospital. So all of those things can also get managed. So yes, there is opportunity of cost improvements in this.
Huge transformation also, possibly, maybe not now, but 10 years down the line with data, maybe a huge transformation in both this.
Absolutely.
So, very interestingly, I think states have seen various different models of intervention. You work across a lot of states per se. And there is various models of intervention across healthcare and education you see across states. Any models which you think are really worth emulating for rest of the states to come through? And what has those models yielded in terms of results on the ground in those states?
Health, I don't have too much of an idea. I have a personal idea that health solution should be taken into video. Not telemedicine per se as a curative medicine, because as she mentioned, preventive medicine is a large area, and preventive medicine can be taken care of by making video conferencing arrangement at all health centers and all health services centers, by having consultation with online doctors, because they are now available in most of the places, and that can be a one big scale. But in education, I think Kerala has some examples. Kerala has even introduced fake news and misinformation as a subject, as something that should be introduced. And when you talk about fake news and misinformation, you cannot ignore technological role or technology role. So those kind of interventions are very, very important. In Netherlands has actually introduced everywhere fake news and misinformation across all education system. So this is one huge area that needs to be introduced, apart from the fact that I already told that we need to design our education availability from access and infrastructure perspective. That's very, very important. And the second is, which is related to your earlier question to Meena, is everything is going into data, whether it is content or it's the individual data or everything, and you're going to DigiLocker or whatever. So the sovereignty of data is going to be one of the biggest issue across the country and within the country, especially when you are a democratic country, is that who is going to control those data, who is going to, take care of those data. But, as far as the education is concerned, I have a very one-line solution: make community-oriented, digitally integrated learning space in school. So it's something like make computers available free and Wi-Fi freely available, but don't ask them what to do.
Explore, let them explore.
Just let them explore. I mean, make, allow them to learn like a makerspace place, That is it. It is, you don't have to really monitor. You really don't have to monitor. At the best, you just have to supervise, and community-based learning is the best way of learning. Individualization of learning process through a screen is dangerous.
You're challenging some very basics which have ruled the world for very long. So I can see Meenakshi here, so come in. I guess there are some questions if you want to ask from the audience. And I know Amit has to leave, so.
we don't have... No, this is working now. We haven't actually curated the questions yet because we knew Amit had to leave and we know that our other panelists are staying back with us for dinner. So I think we won't make an abrupt change here. Jayanti, can I request you to come on stage? Jayanti Shukla is the CEO of United Way of India. I'd like her to give a small memento from our side to our guests, please. Thank you for coming from Mumbai for this event. Yes, please. Because the other book is written by him. I'm sure he doesn't want to read his own book.